Hi, my name is Marcus Bumley, and I just wanted to respond to the controversy surrounding what is now being called the Ground Zero Mosque. The Ground Zero Mosque refers to the Cordoba House. It's a planned Islamic cultural center to be built in downtown New York City. The controversy is that this building is being planned to being built only 2 or 3 blocks down from Ground Zero, the site of the September 11th, 2001 attacks on America, which were perpetrated by 19 Islamic extremist terrorists. Islamic extremist. And the controversy is that the placement of this mosque so close to Ground Zero is insensitive to those left behind by the September 11th attacks, families of the victims and other New Yorkers, and that it is an insult to the memory of those who died in the attacks. And I understand where they're coming from. They're trying to say, we're building a monument to the people who killed us, but we're not. Islamic worshippers are not terrorists. Islamic terrorists are terrorists. Saying that, Islamic terrorists are Muslims, is technically true, but it's the same thing as saying that the KKK, another terrorist group, are Christians. Technically true, but in name only. But, it is a sensitive issue, and 3,000 people that day died. So it's understandable where people are coming from. I just wanted to state my view, and my view is I think it's a great idea. Some things to note. I found a source that said at least 28 Muslims died on September 11th, and I know people are going to ask, no, that's not including the terrorists. 28 people died in the September 11th attacks, which is proportional to how many Muslim Americans there are. I had read a report, it came out in November 2009, that said 3,557 Muslim Americans are serving in the military. It's just there's a fine line, and no one here is trying to condone or gratify terrorism. And people are saying that this is going to be a symbol. It's going to be a sign of the victory of the terrorists to have a mosque near Ground Zero. And I think it's a sign of the exact opposite. To me, it's a sign that the terrorists lost. I remember when people, during 9/11 were like, if we don't do this, the terrorists win. If we don't keep encouraging religious tolerance, no matter what, the terrorists win, because terrorists are not religiously tolerant. If terrorists could rule the world, it would be only their strict view, their perverted view of Islam. And, but I mean, people have criticized it, and, they need to be heard. I just wanted to react to some of them. Sorry, I was just getting some of my quotes that I have on a Word document here. As I said, many prominent people have come out against it, as well as people have come out in support of it. And former vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin tweeted this on the issue, quote, "Ground Zero Mosque supporters, doesn't it stab you in the heart, as it does ours throughout the heartland? Peaceful Muslims, please repudiate." And I think she meant repudiate. Typos happen. And I just don't really know what she's asking here. Doesn't it stab you in the heart? The attacks? Yes. But does it stab me in the heart to see a mosque? No. Because I know that most Muslims are, for peace and cooperation, and they're godly people. But, I mean, Sarah Palin does seem to have the reaction that most people who are against this issue are having. And it's reasonable. It's just an emotional pang. It's an emotional reaction. And so I'll get back to that. But next I wanted to read Newt Gingrich's, he's former Speaker of the House, his comments on it. And these ones, I don't agree with them. I don't agree with all these comments. Here's the first one. Quote, "There should be no mosque near Ground Zero in New York so long as there are no churches or synagogues in Saudi Arabia. The time for double standards that allow Islamists to behave aggressively toward us while they demand our weakness and submission is over." I just don't get what he's getting at here. That because there are no churches or synagogues in Saudi Arabia, that we should sink to that level and not let a mosque near Ground Zero. I don't know who he was referring to, who doesn't let the churches or synagogues be there in Saudi Arabia, whether it's the government or terrorist groups. But if they're not there, it's because the people are not religiously tolerant. They don't believe in democracy. And my response to that point there is, we're better than that. And, he says, allow Islamists, and he just says Islamists, not like extremists. Allow them to behave aggressively towards us. Well, we stand our ground when terrorists threaten us. We don't compromise our beliefs. There is a building that is run down in New York City. It's an old shoe depository. And there's a group of people who have the money to pay for it, free market enterprise, and they want to build a place of worship and a community center which has only good aims. And I don't see how we don't let that happen. That is America. That's what we do here. I think we are standing our ground, and that is not us showing weakness or submission. So that's the first part. There's more. Quote, "Those Islamists and their apologists who argue for religious toleration those Islamists and their apologists who argue for religious toleration are arrogantly dishonest. They ignore the fact that more than 100 mosques already exist in New York City." Well, I don't know about that. I don't know who's trying to deny that there are mosques in New York City. I mean, some people just want another mosque. I didn't know there was a mosque quota. And I just don't like how he says, these Islamists and apologists are arguing for religious toleration as if it's a bad thing. That's a core tenet of America. That's what we're built on. But there's more. Quote, "Cordoba House is a deliberately insulting term. It refers to Cordoba, Spain, the capital of Muslim conquerors who symbolized their victory over the Christian Spaniards by transforming a church there into the world's third largest mosque complex." Now this part was very interesting to me, and I researched it. And he's right, Cordoba, Spain was maybe the biggest Muslim capital in all of history. And there were Spaniards there first, Christian Spaniards, and then there were Muslims, there were wars. And it was a Muslim stronghold for a long time until 1256 when the Spaniards retook the city. But I don't know why he's thinking that that's why they named it the Cordoba House. I think that's an assumption, and I think that the plausible reason for naming it Cordoba House is that it was this big historical city. It's UNESCO, World Heritage Sites, has marked it as a historic city to be preserved. It has Muslim history, and it's the site of hundreds of years of Muslim history. And I believe they are naming it after Cordoba, like someone may name a church after a Christian society. I don't think in any way they are insinuating that this is the New World Order, that this is the sign of Muslims taking over the Cordoba House. The whole point, the mission statement, is to educate people on Islam. And, Cordoba was a huge Islamic city. So, they're telling the history of that. It's Cordoba in America, kind of. And I wanted to read the mission statement of the Cordoba House.